Hi, how you doing? This is Jonathan Melville. If you're following the Tremors Seeking Perfection page, then you maybe know that. Um, I wrote the book, Tremors Seeking Perfection, the unofficial guide to Tremors, which I just happen to have a copy of here. And yeah, I just thought I would record this quick post at, what time is it? 9:10 at night here in Edinburgh, in Scotland. And it's been a big day for Tremors fans around the world. I woke up this morning to the news that Tremors 6 had been announced by Michael Gross, which was something I wasn't expecting. I had heard some rumblings that I could have mistaken for graboids, but I'd heard some sort of rumblings that maybe something was happening, but certainly wasn't expecting the announcement that Tremors 6 has been greenlit. Michael Gross is going to come back as Bert Gummer, and apologies for the very boring background, by the way. I can see this is not very exciting. There's some slightly more exciting books up there, film and telly ones, but these are just other random ones and things, so yeah, not very exciting. But anyway, yeah, so yeah, Michael Gross is coming back as Bert Gummer, and Jamie Kennedy is going to come back as the character he played, Travis. You can see I've watched the film so many times. I do have a copy on Blu-ray, but admittedly I don't watch it every day. Maybe I should, as a true Tremors fan. But yeah, so Michael Gross, Jamie Kennedy is going to come back, as is the director Don Michael Paul, and that's all we know really. So yeah, my reaction to that, as I mentioned here, Tremors 6 reaction is great. I think it's interesting times to be a Tremors fan. When I started writing the book Seeking Perfection back in 2012 or so, the Tremors franchise was effectively dead. Oh, by the way, you can ask questions on this as well. I think you can ask questions down there, and I'll answer them if you like, or you can say things. Hopefully not about some of these books. They're not all mine, honestly. Or you can tell me to shut up. But this is not going to take long anyway. But what was I saying? But yeah, when I started writing the book, Tremors was effectively dead. There were no more Tremors films. Tremors 4 was the last film in the TV series. We've got a comment here from John Bruce. He says Kevin Bacon should return at the end, just like Vin Diesel did in Fast and Furious 3. Spoiler for Fast and Furious 3. But yeah, well, I'll get onto that in a moment, actually, the whole what's happening with the Tremors franchise, because it's quite weird, and I'll try and skip to that quickly, because this whole thing should be quite quick. But the point was, yeah, when I started writing the book, Tremors, there were no new Tremors films planned that I knew of. So the last film was Tremors 4. Tremors, the series, had taken place in 2003, and that was that. When I started writing the book, and I got to the end of it, they announced there was going to be a new film, Tremors 5. So I had to pause the book, pause the release date, and write another chapter. And all I knew at the time, before the book came out in June or July 2015, and the film was due out in, I think, October 2015. So I didn't know everything about it, but I put in what I did know. Anyway, yeah, so that was then, and now suddenly from 5 films and an old TV series, we have the announcement of a 6th film, and also the news that Kevin Bacon wants to return in a TV series. So we're going to have potentially a Tremors TV series and a Tremors film. Both Kevin Bacon told me for the book that he didn't want to return in a sequel, like, well, a Tremors 6, 7, or 8. He only wanted to do a kind of continuation film from the first film. So effectively we are he wants to ignore all the sequels, which I suspect means that all the Michael Gross films are just going to be written out of history, and he then will come back 26, 27 years later and just carry on the franchise himself. So it's I wrote a little blog post earlier on tremorsguide.com just talking about where the franchise might go now. And there's another question there which I'll answer in a second. But yeah, so we seem to be at this point where we're going to have potentially two kind of factions, a divergent, I don't know, Tremors universe, where we've got Michael Gross as Bert Gummer of fighting monsters in one way, one world, and the other one we've got Kevin Bacon fighting graboids in another one, and you know, they won't meet up, which is quite odd. So I'd be interested to hear your thoughts. Anyone that's watching this, there are apparently 9 people. Hello. Yeah, so we've got a question here actually I can see from Martin John Anthony Parsons, who says, do you think more Stampede elements could be brought back in 6? Can there be a happy medium between pre and post Stampede Tremors? Oof. Well, I've been quite vocal about the fact that I think it's a real shame that Steve Wilson and Brent Maddock, who co-created Tremors and wrote the original film and were involved in all the sequels, wrote the scripts and directed them up to Tremors 4, they were kind of pushed out, really, or at least declined to be part of Tremors 5. They were, I believe, from their statement and from maybe, well, speaking to them a few times, they were offered the opportunity to be part of Tremors 5, but they weren't offered any creative control. So they declined to be part of it, which I think is a real shame. Do I think more Stampede elements could be brought back in? Well, it would be nice to see them return to perfection, but I think Tremors really comes from the tone that Maddock and Wilson bring to it, both in front, well, behind the camera, really, of course, but both from the written side of it and from the production, and they were involved, along with Nancy Roberts, who produced the films. They were really involved in bringing the team together, assigning, directors and cast and crew. So I think that without them being there to oversee the tone and keep an eye on it and just sort of shape it all, I don't know if you can really bring back those Stampede elements. You can put in perfection and maybe some of the characters from the original films, but without that tone, without them knowing that this is a sci-fi horror comedy western romance, those are difficult to do, and I think those guys did it really well. But without that, I don't know. Can there be a happy medium between pre and post Stampede? Again, I don't know. I think I'll just repeat myself really, without those guys there, there's really nobody left behind the scenes on the Tremors movies that were there originally. The only one person that I think is still involved is, well, 2 people, one in front of the camera, Michael Gross, and behind the camera, Patty Jackson, who was one of the producers, executives at Universal Studios. I believe she was involved with Tremors 5, and I suspect she might be part of Tremors 6. She was involved in on all the sequels, the original sequels, but that's it. So really, they're just different things, I think. If you enjoyed the Stampede films, hopefully, I think some people, and please let me know in here, if you enjoyed the sequels, did you enjoy Tremors 5 as much? Is it the same thing? I think it's a bit different. Maybe things just have to change, and that's just the way it is. But I think they're very different. I would just have to kind of accept, I certainly have to accept that they are just a different universe. There's the Stampede universe and then the kind of Universal universe. Anyway, hope that made some sense. We've also got a question here from Louis, I think it is, who's asking, or who says, I would like to see other old actors of other characters who survived in Tremors 6. Val, Earl, Rhonda, and Grady. So yeah, so a bit of a mix there. So Val and Earl from Tremors and Tremors 2, and Rhonda from Tremors, and Grady from Tremors 2. So a real mix of old classic characters really brought back. I would like to see that as well. I think it would be nice to see a return from some of the actors that we know and love, I guess, from the past. Yeah, whether that'll happen, of course, I don't know. None of us know at the moment. I suspect because it's a new thing and Universal are trying to do different things, we won't see them. I think they probably moved on. But fingers crossed. Here's something else. Oh yeah, Martin says again, good answer and great book. Thank you. I did enjoy 5, but I agree it lacked that certain Stampede something. Yeah, there was just something missing tonally. I mean, I think well done to the guys behind it. I think they did it. I think John Welpley, who wrote the script or basically adapted it from Brent Maddock and Steve Wilson and Brent Maddock's original script. I think he of course he tried his best to recapture that tone while also bringing something new to it. So it's just a funny world. And then of course we've got the TV series, as I mentioned, this Divergent thing. So what is going to happen? What's going to happen there? Samuel says, do you have plans to make a second edition to your book? Was there material that didn't make it into the first book? Plans for second edition? Well, there kind of wasn't really until the announcement. I mean, when I finished writing Seeking Perfection, I hadn't seen Tremors 5, so I admit there's a bit of there's something missing there, and that's been mentioned to me a couple of times by people, and some reviews saying it feels a little bit rushed. It wasn't really rushed so much. I don't think I was rushing. It's just I did want the book to come out in the 25th anniversary, and I didn't really have much else to say. If I'd waited until Tremors 5 came out, then that would have been kind of October, and the book probably wouldn't have come out until later in 2016. And I didn't know if anyone was going to speak to me from Tremors 5, because the great thing about the original films is they were made kind of 25 years ago and 20 years ago and so on, and people are quite happy to talk about what they did 20 years ago, whereas if they're talking about something they made 6 months ago, they're a lot less candid, and they're also in PR mode, and they're really just trying to promote the film. So I just think I got the best I could at the time. As for material that didn't make the first book, there wasn't much, to be honest, that didn't make it. There were maybe some little bits of interviews that just didn't quite fit, and I was a bit sad actually. For example, some of the people I interviewed for the book sadly have passed away since I wrote the book. So the likes of Marcia Strassman, who was in Tremors the series, who played Nancy in the TV series, I had a great conversation with her. She was a lovely lady and told me some fantastic stories about working on Tremors and also just Hollywood in the kind of 70s and 80s and into the 90s when she was really acting in things like Welcome Back, Kotter. And she told me about working with actors like James Garner and the Rockford Files. I'm a big Rockford Files fan. I've got a Rockford Files book somewhere up there. So we had a great chat about that, and she did say I'll call back anytime and have a chat, and I didn't, and she sadly died within a year or so of me speaking to her. So there was a little bit more of an interview that I did with her, but it didn't quite fit because it wasn't all about Tremors. Since the book, I must admit, I have managed to track down a few new people. So just because, I don't know, I thought I would just try and see if I could get a few extra people, and I have managed it. So that, I don't quite know what I'll do with those, if anything. Tremors 4, I struggled to get some more people at the time, but I did manage to track down Brent Rome from Tremors 4, who has retired from acting, and I had emailed him for the book, and he didn't ever get back to me, and I thought he just didn't want to speak to me. And then I tried again, and he did, and I think he just didn't get the email originally. So yeah, so to answer the question, so that was a long answer, but yeah, I think I would like to. Whether people would like to buy it again, I don't know. If I was to do it again, I would add more to it, I think. Certainly, obviously, about the new film, and maybe the TV series, and who knows, maybe the series will go to a couple of series, and maybe there'll be a Tremors 7. So I don't know when I stop, but maybe there could be a 30th anniversary book. So we'll see. John Bruce says the chemistry between the leads in Tremors is terrific. I miss the Bacon Ward dynamic. I agree. I think it would be fantastic to see Fred Ward return to Tremors. Wouldn't that be brilliant? And I don't want to be too dismissive of the TV series. I hope I haven't been, really. I think I'm just saying that it's a strange world to be in, where we potentially have two different worlds of Tremors, neither of which involve the input of the original creators. And I just think without that, they're potentially, why not just go to them to ask them advice? These guys were closely involved in the films in that world for many years, and just to suddenly ignore that, I don't really understand it. I guess people just think they can capture that tone. But then again, maybe, if Fred Ward is willing to come back, another Val and Earl adventure, maybe across 7 or 8 episodes, would be fantastic. I'm currently watching Wolf Creek, the film version of Wolf Creek. Sorry, the TV version of Wolf Creek, which is based on the films. And that's quite a nice way of kind of extending a story across multiple episodes, and adding depth to it when you could just do a film and it's all quite short. So yeah, bring back Fred Ward and Kevin Bacon, please. James says, did anyone talk about the soundtrack releases for the sequels, or why they haven't happened? No, nobody mentioned that. I did get to interview the composer of the the name is escaping me at the moment. The composer of Tremors 2, I think it was, by email. I didn't speak to him, sadly, but it was by email. His name escapes me, and he did Tremors 4 as well. But I didn't ask him about why they weren't released. But you never know. If there is a resurgence, if I guess the fact that Tremors 6 is happening means that Tremors 5 must have done well on DVD and Blu-ray and Netflix. Although we still haven't had Tremors 5 on Netflix in the UK. We haven't got any Tremors on Netflix in the UK. We did have the original Tremors for a little while, and that's gone. So that's a bit unfortunate, but it must have done well in America. So, if it's doing well over there, if Universal can see a way to make money from Tremors, then maybe the soundtracks will come out as well. Martin says, definitely would buy it. I like that. Thank you. I think he means a second edition of Seeking Perfection. It would be great fun to do. It was a really good fun book to write, and I must admit, I just really enjoyed myself. How can you not enjoy sitting and writing about the Tremors movies and interviewing people who are involved in it? And I did it originally because I'm a fan, and I wouldn't be recording this thing if I wasn't a fan. The most fun was just writing it, and then researching it and doing the interviews was great fun. Writing it was pretty good fun, although a bit more difficult. But I'm glad it's out there. But yeah, Yeah, maybe there will be a second edition. So thanks, Martin. There's a copy sold. Harry says, I thought Tremors 5 was damn good and in some kind of way a step in the right direction. Fair enough. An interesting mix of classic Tremors and modern day B-movie fun. I'm actually excited to see Tremors 6 with the Gross Kennedy team, mainly because they share terrific chemistry. As for the Bacon series, I'm not. Jay Ferguson, that's the composer. I'm sorry, Jay, if you're watching, which I'm sure you're not. But thank you, James Rayner, for reminding me of the name. I feel bad for forgetting that. But Harry, yeah, Tremors 5 was good fun. It was, these movies are not meant to be taken seriously. They are, um, they're action sci-fi horror movies set in weird desert locations with a crazy guy with a gun who takes it all too seriously. And, they are just meant to be entertaining. And I get that. I'm just a bit sad, as I say, that the original creators weren't involved. And I think it's partly because I did get to meet them and interview them, and I understood that what they were doing was, when Tremors 2 came along, you know all this if you've read the book, but when Tremors 2 came along, it wasn't the idea of the writers, of Wilson and Maddock. They were told, or they were asked by Universal, can you write a sequel? And I think that effectively the deal was, if they hadn't written it, Tremors 2 would still be made. Or certainly that was the case with the later films. But when Tremors 2 happened, they just wanted to write a good script, make a good film, and kind of be loyal to the fans and give the fans what they wanted and be what's the word? Loyal. Just be kind of fair to the fans, really. There's a better word I can't think of. So, and they stuck with the films and the TV series even at the lowest points. So for them to be missing, it kind of soured it a bit for me. Tremors 5, but at the same time, I watched it and if you don't take it too seriously, it's just a good laugh. And Michael Gross is amazing. If you agree with that, please click the like button. Let's all agree Michael Gross is amazing. He could be watching this just now. I know he's a fan of the page. And the book, he apparently likes the book, which is great, which made it all worthwhile. But, so yeah, great to see Michael Gross. There's one light going past. I can see them floating past. Another two. What was I saying? Yeah, Michael Gross. Yeah, he's fantastic, and that's something I'm really excited that he's going to be back as Bert Gummer in Tremors 6. That's brilliant, and any chance we get to see him putting that cap back on and playing Bert is brilliant. So I just sort of thought Tremors 5 was a little bit coarser than the original films. It just felt a little bit different. There was a slightly different tone to it. Whereas the original films were kind of aimed at family audience, bizarrely, even though they were about killer monsters. The bad language really there wasn't much, and not much gore. Whereas Tremors 5 was a bit more gory, and it just Bert, there was one moment in it, and I don't know if anyone agrees with this. Maybe it's just me. But there was one moment in Tremors 5 where, and it is a spoiler, sorry. I can't remember the exact scenario, but basically Bert is in Africa, and the ass blaster is flying through the air, and the bad guy, whose name I forget, is standing beside the car, and Bert shoots down the ass blaster, which explodes and falls on the guy, the bad guy, and kills him. And Bert just completely ignores it. And to me, that is a slight betrayal of the character, I think. I don't think Bert Gummer in the original films would have done that. I think he would have, first of all, he would have tried his best not to kill the guy, even though the guy was bad. He met a lot of bad guys in the TV series, but I don't really remember him killing them with a ball of flame. So, ball of fire, sorry. But anyway, so little things like that niggled, and I thought that's not my Bert Gummer. I can understand maybe one point of view is that he's kind of battle hardened by now. He's been doing this for what 25 years or so, so maybe that changes a man. But little things like that made me just think, oh, it's not quite Tremors. It's not quite the original Tremors. But Harry, I'm glad you really enjoyed it, and a lot of people did because they're making a new one. I'm not going to keep this going too much longer because I don't have much else to say really. But it's great that there's a few people commenting here. James says it's sad that Wilson and Maddock weren't involved, but at least it was based on their script. And John Welpley worked on Tremors 3. Part 6 is uncharted territory with no input from them whatsoever. Yep, that's true. Tremors 6 is kind of the proper, I don't know, next generation or handover or something of the Tremors baton. So who knows what it's going to end up like. That's probably reason to be excited, really. I suppose we should be excited. As I said earlier, I wish them all good luck. Not that they need my good luck at all. But yeah, I hope it does well. I would like to see more Tremors. I'm going to sound like a broken record and say, get in touch with the guys at Stampede. They're still accepting emails. I get the odd email from them, and I know they're around. But hey, I can't speak for them. Maybe they wouldn't want to be asked. Maybe they wouldn't help. But you know, it was their baby. So why not try and get some help from the guys that started it all off? But if they're not involved in this, then something's happened. So yeah, I'm probably gonna end up just talking nonsense if I haven't been talking nonsense already. But it's fun to do these things once in a while, I think. It's quite big news. It's not every day they announce a new Tremors movie. It's almost 2 years to the month that Tremors 5 was announced. So, hey, maybe it's going to be maybe every couple of years we're going to get a new Tremors film announced. A bit like Bond films, maybe 2 or 3 years we'll get new Bert Gummer. But hey, what's going to happen with the TV series? So that'll be the next thing potentially. You know, will the new film mean that there isn't a TV series? Maybe that'll scare off the guys doing the TV show. Who knows? But anyway, I will maybe do another one of these if there's news on that soon, or any more Tremors 6 news. I'm losing track now. Tremors 6. I'll just like that comment from James, because thank you, James. So unless there's any other comments or complaints, I will probably just head off. And I've got my copy of Seeking Perfection, so I'll just go and read that, because that's what I do of an evening. What does anyone else do apart from read their book and watch Tremors? Oh, one last comment here, I think. Stephen says, will you produce a follow-up book with the upcoming productions? Thanks for that, Stephen. I like that as well. Will I? Well, I kind of mentioned that a little bit earlier, but the answer is maybe. When I started, as I said earlier, when I finished writing Seeking Perfection, start that again. When I started writing Seeking Perfection, there were 4 films and a TV series, and I thought, hey, I can write. This is easy. Write a book about a franchise that finished 10 years ago. Nearly at the end of the book, and they announced Tremors 5, which I wasn't really expecting, so I had to add a bit on. And then when I published the book, Kevin Bacon started talking about this TV series, and I thought, well, maybe I should write something else. I could add that on if that happens. And now they've announced Tremors 6. So the answer to that is possibly, if anyone would buy it. I would it took a lot, a lot of time to write it. It was good fun, but it quite exhausting. But if people are willing to buy it, please let me know, and I'll think about doing it. But no, why wouldn't I want to maybe? Why wouldn't I want to add to it and do something new? So yeah, okay, we'll see. That's really not a good answer, is it? That's very. I'm trying to get around the answer, but probably, possibly. Okay, anyway, so Martin says again, thanks for the discussion. Stephen says, thanks for addressing my question. I must have missed the answer at the beginning. It's great to share a passion for the great Tremors series. Keep up the great work. Thank you very much. And thank you for being a fan of the page and for commenting. I just thought I would try this out. There's a few of us on here at odd times around the world. Oh, Harry says again, a follow-up book would be awesome. Also, I think I'm the only Austrian who owns a copy of your book. I think you might be. I haven't noticed a huge spike in sales in Austria. America is obviously the big place. If you're ever in Lone Pine, where they filmed Tremors, the guys there at the Lone Pine Film Museum are very nice, and they stock the book, which is great. I'd love to get out there myself. So yeah, if I was going to do a second book, I would want to go out to the location and do a tour, so that I could write about that for the book. And maybe I could write that off against my tax return. I don't know, but we should have a Tremors convention in Lone Pine. Maybe that should be the next topic of the next live event. Anyway, I see I'm losing people. I think we're on about 5. It's fluctuating. Sorry this wasn't more exciting. Apologies for the background. Yeah, nothing else to say. But yeah, feel free to leave some comments on the page. And if you want to do this again, if anyone wants to talk and hear me talking and answering some questions or whatever, then just let me know and we'll do that. Otherwise, I'll bid you good night and keep watching the ground. Cheers.